Good morning. This is Ashley Creighton, and I'm here to talk about our transition blueprint for the Orleans Central Supervisory Union. So, as I'm sure you've heard, there are some thoughts around how to move our school district into a more trauma-informed frame of mind and what that will look like for each school. There's a lot of information out there about trauma-informed school, but this is what we mean when we talk about a trauma-informed school. It means that all educators, from administrators to paraeducators to our cafeteria workers, all have an understanding of trauma and what that means, how that impacts our students, and are prepared to respond to those students who have been impacted by trauma. It also means that the culture of our schools are based on creating a system of support for staff and students where nobody falls through the cracks. We don't want to be leaving anyone behind. A trauma-informed school also has clear routines and expectations that are taught to the students consistently that help them to be guided through a variety of situations that they might encounter. And finally, the power of relationships is understood in a trauma-informed school, and educators are encouraged and expected to develop trusting and positive relationships with their students. So why does this matter? Quite frankly, this quote from the Child Trauma Toolkit answers that question. 1 out of every 4 students has experienced a traumatic event that can impact their learning and or their behavior. That means that in a class of 12 students, 3 of your students have experienced a traumatic event. And that means that those 3 students are predisposed to having potential struggles both with academics and with their behavior, and we need to be able to support them. So what are we going to do about it? There are several things that this district is going to put in place to move towards a trauma-informed school. I'm going to go through a list of several of them, and then we're going to talk a little bit more about them. We are going to engage in professional development, starting with today, and learn to help us better understand what trauma is, how it impacts our students, and what lies in our power to have a positive impact on those students. We have our students for 7 hours a day, 5 days a week. That is a lot of time that can be used to help mitigate the negative impact of trauma. We are going to also hold ourselves accountable for that new learning and change our mindset and our practices to be empathetic to the experiences that our students have had. Those experiences that may be unique to them, that we ourselves may not have experienced. And I think the biggest takeaway around professional development that I want you to have is that this is not a one and done presentation. This is something that we are going to be engaging in throughout the school year and for the next several school years so that we can broaden our understanding and our knowledge of trauma and the new research that comes out yearly. We are going to shift away from punitive discipline systems that honestly do very little to affect long-term change in our students. We are going to begin to use restorative practices in our classrooms and our schools, both to have conversations in a circle type setting, as well as to help students understand the choices that they are making and the impacts that those choices have. We are going to teach our students how to behave, not just expect that they come to us knowing how to behave. And we are going to help them fix it when they make a mistake, because they are young and they are learning and we are educators. That is our job. We are going to create and adopt a universal discipline matrix with defined behaviors and clear and consistent responses so that all of our students understand what we expect and so that we ourselves as educators are consistent in our responses to those behaviors. It is unacceptable that in some classrooms swearing is tolerated and in other classrooms it is not. How can we expect our students to know what to do if we are not consistent ourselves? We are going to develop and implement a multi-tiered system of support for both academic and behavioral interventions that spreads our interventions, knowledge, and time amongst Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. Tier 1 is our universal interventions. Those are the ones that every student receives. Our Tier 2 level is targeted interventions, often in small groups to work on skills that can then be caught up to where they should be. And finally, Tier 3 for a more individual approach to both academic and behavioral interventions. We are going to use data that we are collecting on both academics and behavior to inform our decisions about where students fall within the system of tiers and to make sure that the interventions we are putting in place are actually working and are goal-oriented. We were going to review that data every 6 weeks to make sure that what we are doing is affecting change and meeting the needs for that student as an individual. We are also going to make sure that we are viewing the skill deficits that our students may have as areas that they need more practice with and that need more instruction, not just as a negative impact, or a negative aspect of who that student is. Is it going to be easy? I've said a lot of words, I've made a lot of goals, and I have a lot of thoughts about how we're going to move our schools to a trauma-informed area. It's not going to be easy, but as educators, it is our job to shape our future. And so if we are even able to change the lives of just a handful of students in a positive way, isn't it worth it? Isn't that our job? I know that we can do it, and anyone who would like to be a part of this committee to change the shape and face of our schools to a more trauma-informed view, please contact me. I would love to speak to you more about it. Thank you very much for your time.